Final speaker is our Pro Vice Chancellor, Professor Amavi Akakovi. He's going to deliver a presentation on the Carnegie grants. Prof, if you can hear me and if you are available, please go on.
Yes, I can hear you. I'm available. Good morning. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning, Prof.
Good morning.
Okay, I'm happy you can also hear me.
Good morning.
First of all, let me add my voice to the previous speakers by thanking you for joining us for this special event. It's very short in times, but very significant to us, especially looking at the leadership and the direction education is taking these days. And I'm very glad to associate myself to the previous speakers, Professor Bafwa, who is for me a mentor and then a father, if I may say, in the academic field, and also the Dean of the Faculty of Engineering, who actually is another father to this program, because this is something that has to do with engineering only. At this point, it's my pleasure to share my screen and also share my presentation with you quickly on the grant. Yeah. I hope my slide can be seen now. Yeah, some few changes I like to bring is that, well, we say Carnegie grant, but I will really talk not on the Carnegie grant in general. I'll talk only on the CAF, which is the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program. This is the program we are currently executing. And the objective of this presentation is to bring this to the fore so that a lot of people can get to know how this works. And then in subsequent years, we may have quite a number of winners of these grants, even in ATU and beyond ATU, probably in Ghana and other places. So this is the import of this presentation. The outline of my presentation, I will take you through some few things. Just talk briefly about a slide on history, and then define what CADS FP means, and then also talk briefly about some necessary information we need to know as hosts, and then also as the scholars, and then the type of activities we can engage in, probably the review process to just awake our minds on what to do, and then the review criteria, and share with you some few success stories. Well, this is a picture of Andrew Carnegie, and the history tells us that he is a Scottish-American industrialist and philanthropist. Eventually, he led the expansion of the American steel industry in the late 19th century, and this man became extremely rich. He became very rich, and he decided in his last 18 years to give away quite a huge amount of money, amounting to about $350 million, roughly 5.2 billion in 2020. I think that means a lot. That's quite a huge amount of money. And he shared this money to many charities, foundations, universities, organizations, grant providers, and this was about 90% of his grant. So you see a lot of corporations and grants that are having at the back the name Carnegie. So this is the history of how they are funded. And the import of the change in the name of my presentation is that I'm not really highlighting on all forms of grant related to Carnegie, but I want to talk specifically on the one we are running currently, which is the Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program. So what is the CAF? Short form of Carnegie African Diaspora Fellowship Program. It is a scholar fellowship program. It's a fellowship program for educational projects at African higher education institutions. I think the pleasant term here is that it's for African higher education institutions. Briefly, this program is offered by the Institute of International Education, known as IAE, in collaboration with the United States International University, Africa. And the program is actually funded, in terms of fund, by a grant from the Carnegie Corporation of New York. So CCNY, the Carnegie Corporation of New York, they actually provide funds to support this program, but they work together with the Institute of International Education and also the United States International University, Africa. I'll be glad to mention from the latest record that a total of 527 African Diaspora Fellowship have been awarded for scholars to travel back to Africa since the program inception in 2013. So quite a number benefited this program. So they came back to Africa and then they worked together with some few people here to build some programs and to do some one or two things, the type of activity they return back, all in the spirit of bringing their experience to bear so that they can help develop some other areas which seems not developed in our part of the world, yet again, well embraced in their part of the world. So there are three entities playing triple roles here. That's why we have a picture of a trinity. The card exemplify the CCNY, that's the corporation in New York, the Carnegie Corporation in New York, their enduring commitment to higher education in Africa. So this corporation is committed to ensuring a higher education success in Africa. And this program, known as the CARD FP, actually exemplifies that. The second one, which is the International Institute of Education, it manages and administers the program, including managing application, managing project requests, fellowships, and the rest. And also we have the United States International University Africa, which provides strategic direction through the Advisory Council. So again, CAP is a fellowship program for African institutions in Ghana, not just in Ghana, in Kenya, in Nigeria, in South Africa, in Tanzania, or in Uganda, or again, in peoples that are part of what is known as the African Research University Alliance. So it's limited. This Africa is limited to the named countries. So if you are part of these countries, it should be your interest to actually benefit from this program. So to host an African-born scholar, and the scholar you are hosting must be an African-born scholar in one of those countries. To work in a project, the objective is to host such a scholar to work in a project that relates to research collaboration, for instance, graduate student teaching and learning or mentoring, and then curriculum co-development. I'll come back to this point very well. So in this collaboration, there is the host and there is the scholar or the fellow. The scholar or the fellow is that person who finds himself living now in the United States of America or Canada, these two countries, and who is actually born from one of the African countries, but now residing at the other side. He is actually the scholar or the host who is bringing an experience to share with you now. And you who is receiving the person to carry out a project with the person, you are the host. So the host generally is an institution in one of the countries I've just listed. So accredited African university in 6 host countries. I mentioned them again: Ghana, Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, Tanzania, and Uganda. They can submit a project request to host an African-born scholar currently living in the United States or in Canada. And the host institution can collaborate with a specific scholar on the project request or submit without naming a scholar. So don't be limited because you don't know someone in this condition. If you have a great idea, there is a possibility of putting your proposal together and submitting to the Carnegie grant, and they will find, in this case, a suitable fellow to you, because they also have a portal to allow the scholars who actually qualify for this type of exchange to also register and have a number. So they can easily identify the best or the most suitable person to your project in case you don't have any person in mind. So this is exactly what I was just showing. So if the host submits without naming a scholar, IIE will search their roster of qualified candidates to be matched to the request. So as the scholar, what do they have to do? That's those people from the other side. They have to be eligible for the CARD program. First of all, you have to be born in one of the African countries, as evidenced by the biographical data in the scholar's passport. You must live in the United States or in Canada and hold a terminal degree. And you must be employed at an accredited college or university. So when you meet all these criteria, you can register in their portal, and then you can be used for this collaboration. In actual fact, before I talk about the type of activities that emanate from this, I must say that it's a win-win situation, because this is the person who comes and bring an experience, share here, and get something going. And at the same time, he's taken care of by the grant to some extent, and there are other parts that the host institution also handle, but generally things that are minor or normal in our everyday activities. Then if you are interested in doing this, you must develop a proposal that falls in one of the following three categories. Are you looking at designing something that have to do with innovation in curriculum co-development? Are you looking at something that has to do with new approaches and methods to graduate mentoring and then training? And then also looking at impactful research collaboration and capacity strengthening. Let me take them one by one. Look at the innovation in curriculum co-development. This says that we should focus on innovative and collaborative approaches to designing and implementing new courses and curriculum. It is time that we should start identifying what is there that is not here. Because if you watch, we are now a global market. The advent of Industry 4.0 and quite a number of revolutions have brought the whole world to a global market. So students that graduate from institutions in Ghana should be as employable as those graduating from Massachusetts and other institutions in the United States. For that matter, they need to have curriculum that actually point to almost the same skills and knowledge. And for that matter, it is just good for us to design in collaboration with other people, learn from what they are doing, and then add those ones to what we are doing here. And I'm sure we can build curriculum that meets the request for graduates of our time. So fellowship that assist host institutions in developing and strengthening online instructional capacities are highly encouraged, because, and this is why the first two presenters emphasize a lot on the import of MOOCs and the import of online education. This has taken an unprecedented pace, and we have to also follow. And following suit demand that we develop for our own context, relevant content, and then place them also on online, and then cherish them as they deserve. So we can build collaboration to strengthen our capability in developing such online instructional materials. Then the second category, which has to do with new approaches and methods to graduate mentoring and then training. This one is for mentoring and training graduate students, and then request to, for instance, identify new approaches and methods that will enhance graduate student and then technical research skills. For instance, we do a lot of research in Ghana, but particularly if you take the technical university, we are called to do applied research and to bring solutions to societal problems. And we really, if you consider the number that graduate in technical university every year, even Accra Technical University, we have a population of about 21,000. And if you assume about 5,000 to graduate every year, if each of these in a group of 5, meaning making 1,000 group, who come out with a project that is solving a problem to society, then we have put in the market in 1 year, 1,000 different projects that are dealing with our society, problems. And this way we can improve a lot what is happening, and then we can have an impact in society. But it turns out that we produce a lot of graduates, not just Accra Technical University, all the other technical universities in Ghana, but we have few impact on the market. So there is quite a gap that we need to fill. And this is not the case when we compare with education in another side of the world. This call for collaboration again in how we can strengthen the research capabilities of our students, what strategies and measures we can put together to make sure that we get the best out of them. So this is the second area that we can look at. And then the third area has to do with impactful research and to strengthen the capacity of people. And in this area, we're looking at sustainability. Research collaboration proposed by potential hosts and fellows should demonstrate long-term impact. and strengthening of host faculty technical and research skills. We need to strengthen the host faculty technical and research skills. So any such collaboration is welcome. Gentlemen, I will not take much of your time, so let's talk briefly about the review process so that we keep this in mind as we are developing. I think we had a seminar recently in ATU on grant writing, and then we saw that it's very essential to always keep an eye on what the review process is looking at. If not, you may fall short quickly. I may say that the review process goes in 3 different stages: the technical review, the discipline and regional review, and then the advisory council selection. At the technical review, that's the initial review. This is conducted by the IE staff, and actually it's just to confirm that the host institution and the scholar are eligible to participate in the CAF. So once they establish that, the next thing is to establish whether all the application material have actually been submitted and will be considered. Because if you haven't submitted any of this so requested material, it disqualifies you immediately. In some circumstances, you may have a chance to resubmit 1 or 2 documents, but you may never tell. All depends on the volume of application at the time. Then after that, the discipline and the regional review, that's a review that considered eligible committees and subcommittees that of members who have experience of research in the sub-Saharan area, Africa, that will look at the proposed project and per specific area. So if you submit a proposal in engineering, there's a subcommittee for engineering, and other areas too, they have their respective subcommittee. They look at the potential and the value of the proposal, and they can actually dismiss it and stop the process there, or advise or recommend it so that maybe it may be considered at the test stage by the advisory council selection. And this ultimately decide of the final stage whether the proposal should be recommended and then funds should be allocated or not. So 3 stages. There are more details to that, but for the sake of time, let's keep it as we are going. Remember that the review criteria look at the quality of the proposed work. Not any is a very competitive contest. So if you are writing, you have to write and make sure you write quality content. And really put the best of your effort to develop the proposal. There should be evidence of mutual benefit, because if the proposal does not show the benefit to the host institution and at the same time to the scholar, then it is really questionable. These are criteria that we look at. And then the appropriateness of time proposed for the project, because this is a proposal that sometimes will make you bring the host to Ghana or to your home country for a period that spans from 14 days to 90 days. So the maximum the person can stay here is 3 months, and the minimum is 2 weeks. And actually, Carnegie Grant will fund the transport and other aspect of it. So you should be mindful that you should have something that is workable within the time period that the person is here. Even if some activity have to continue online, at least those that have to be face-to-face must cope with the time limit. And that's very important. You have to have fit and quality of proposed scholar match. That's very important. I stressed on this in our previous discussion that look, don't put a proposal to develop fisheries and put now an electrical engineer to be the main consultant. It is wrong. Put the right person to match with your proposal. The potential for impact is very necessary. All grants always look at the impact, because the impact is great, is going to portray the name of the grant provider further. And that is one of the criteria they look at. And also the host institution cost share, because I did mention that at the host institution, you have to actually handle some few things, which generally are within the bracket of our institutions. Gentlemen, permit me to share some success story. I must say that this is an info bridge information from ATU. This is a proposal that was won by us before in 2019, and we have it. We have a repeat of it now in 2020, but due to the COVID-19, we are now having the program in 2021. So these 2 times that together with Professor Robert Ewa Bafo, were able to win the Carnegie Grant to look at curriculum co-development for integrating MOOCs and massive online open courses in engineering education, and a collaborative research to evaluate the effectiveness of using MOOC to support engineering education and building research capacity at the Accra Technical University. In our first terms, which happened in 2019, we were able to build the Technical University Resource Network, TEN, which was an online platform in which we added quite a number of resources that we mounted some few courses that students experimented, and that was actually made available to a wider scope, all technical university, and is still working gradually. We are going to improve that in this our current, execution of the project. Before I leave you, let me just share this last slide that talks about new areas to consider. I did mention at the beginning that the object of this presentation is to get more people to apply for this grant and stand a chance to win more grantees, in subsequent years. So to advise again in that regard, I want to stress on some few points that are very relevant to us so that people who are interested may pick them up and start developing their proposal towards next year. For instance, virtual laboratory concept is very key for us. And the Dean of the Engineering, Professor Felix Kutunaje, did stress on the importance of this because engineering education demands laboratories. And sometimes the question is that if you perform online education, how do you do laboratory? Yes, there is a possibility. Last year during the COVID-19, when the school went on break, the National Council for the Tertiary Education actually formed a committee. I was privileged to be the chair for us to look at how we can develop and adopt the amateur e-learning concept, which was the concept of virtual laboratory. Amateur have provided equipment to all the 10 technical universities in Ghana, and they have support softwares to actually make us manipulate those equipment even from a farther distance. So we work on this, but I think there have been some new development that do not make it actually come to fruition because it was meant for a longer period, but due to some few events, the impact of the COVID was actually stopped. So because of some of these reasons, it didn't come to fruition yet, but quite a lot of efforts to go into virtual laboratory and proposal in this nature definitely shall be seen, shall be perceived as innovative. We still have a lot of interest in robotics and optoelectronics technology. We receive quite a number of online free trainings from very reputed organizations in China and other places that we placed and we made available to engineering students. And we are still looking at how some of these modules can still be developed in partnership with other institutions abroad and brought to bear through a collaboration of this nature. We were also opportune to take quite a number of courses on Coursera, and IBM offered a number of training in IT and then programming that were relevant for the job market. Again, we are looking at how some few people can pick some of these and come out with proposals that will be innovative in this regard. We are interested in training in IoT. IoT is top technology now in the world. As we are becoming a global market, one thing is to control things from far. And the Internet of Things is one of the very emerging technology we should look at. At the same time, cybersecurity, which is an enabler, I may say, for our Internet of Things and many things. Without a cybersecurity, a lot of these Internet technology will not see life. Mechatronics, which allows us to control quite a number of devices from a far distance. I must say, ATU again, we were able to design a robot arm last year. We won a grant from an institution that sponsored us from Italy. And we were able to have some few students to build a robot arm that was able to pick items from here and there. And this was an innovation as part of mechatronics. We're looking at collaboration that will enhance some of these projects again. This was far, it went far. I think it was national TVs and promoted by COVID. So again, we want to acknowledge all attempts of developing skills that are known in the World Skill International, because World Skill International is another a great trees, a baobab that is actually coming up and is actually promoting skills rather than normal education. Quite a huge portfolio of skills have been made available. Ghana is now a member. More than 82 skills were actually competed and challenged at their last organization in Russia, which we're privileged to attend. So we think that some of these skills, when brought into our technical education, will enhance our TVET experience. And therefore, we should seek collaboration to improve and develop some of this so that yes, it will promote our teaching and learning activity. And also, of course, bilateral online programs. These I've mentioned it earlier. Thank you very much for your attention. This will end my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof. You have really enlightened us on the Carnegie African Diaspora Program. And it's from your presentation, I've gathered that the ATU is very fortunate to have Professor Bafo, because it's not easy to get such a host from what you presented. And the host should be African born who is in the US or Canada to be able to get it. So it means that this fellowship that we've been able to get, we really have to work hard to make sure that it will work out. The issues about the grants too that you elaborated on and how competitive they can be, and then the evaluation process and all that is also well noted. I'm sure participants too have learned a lot from your presentation. Thank you so much. Okay, so now we are on.
Thank you.
Yeah, Prof, thank you. We are on questions and answers. I've looked into the chat. I've not seen any question there. Probably the person may, or a participant may want to rather speak or ask a question through the microphone to any of the participants. Please, that is where we are now. You are welcome to ask any of them questions, but I'll ask one, and that one will go to Professor Bafo. Prof, your last slide showed that we should, or less MOOC. That is what you left us with. But my question to you is, how do we MOOC? What is the process? What do we have to do as an institution to MOOC? Can you enlighten us on that, please?
Okay. Well, like I said, MOOC is it's a massive, open source course. Right. Now, when I say let's MOOC, what I mean is I want ATU for it. So let's take a step back and look at what ATU does. If you look at all the polytechnics before they became technical universities, there are 10 of them. And this was the concept of my visit of the rectors back in 2010, 29, 11, something like that. That let us assume that, let's say we have, Professor Sabre is the strongest professor or lecturer or whatever classification it is in this particular course A. And there are about, maybe 5,000 students that take this course every year. And we struggle in Kumasi, we struggle in Koforidua, we struggle in Bogatanga, then Ho, and the rest of the polytechnics / TUs. Then what we do is we develop that course in a way that it can be accessed by every single student, no matter where they are. And so, but it involves, for instance, at the right time, I'll share with you some of the things I have developed myself. If we go to, for instance, my site. So you take your time. It involves a little planning and setting up and getting the gadgets and recording your videos and editing them and making sure they are in good shape. Now, once you have it there, then you can have that level of impact across all the spectrum in the universe of your academic work. So the polytechnic students will have Professor Sabre, the student at home will have you. And, so what that will mean is you may have maybe teaching assistants, like you can have a course that have 50,000 students in it, for instance. If you go to Coursera, okay. I took a course in astronomy that have 50,000 students. There were a few TAs, but if you look at the way the professor taught the course, at times you may not even need a TA to support because it was very hands-on. But for me, when I say let's MOOC as ATU, I don't want us to do the conventional MOOCing. I want us to really look into hands-on, things that are very simple, that we think, just like what Professor Mevi said, we need to do things that will go to the market and support what we want to do here in Ghana. And so let's take any course that we think we can really move it to the rest of the masses. Look, you have 21,000 students. You can actually take a basic math course that the students struggle with and just give it access. All the students have cell phones now. So it can be a voiceover, it can be a PDF with an audio voiceover so that the internet bandwidth will not become an issue. Or if you can do a good video, then the student can, so, that is what I mean by more. Let's create something and put it out there for the student to access.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. That is well understood. Thank you so much. All right, please, is there any other question for our speakers, our presenters?
Yes, let me add something little here. Can I?
Yes, Prof. Please go ahead.
Yes, just to share some information that among us here are students. There are students, there are lecturers, and interested party. Professor Bafo actually is physically on campus. He's actually in the office of the Pro Vice Chancellor now. So students, staff, and who are interested in having some further discussion with him, probably after the end of this webinar, are welcome to the office of the Pro Vice Chancellor. He'll be here up to 3 p.m. at least to just have some chat with some few of us and get a team to work with. So if you really want to work with him, please take chance to visit the office of the Pro Vice Chancellor. He's there to receive you up to 3 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. We are on question and answer time, please. If there's any.
Doc,
Prof, there is a question in the question box.
Yeah, there's a question there. All right. Then I have to read. Let me read it. It's a controversial question, but maybe we'll find a way to answer it. Please, my question is to Professor Felix. Please, what measures has ATU put in place to make sure that its lecturers attend online classes and are held accountable if they fail to? Also, how did the school prepare lecturers to effectively use online meeting platform to deliver effective lectures? I think this one, it's more of a quality issue. I think the student, it is likely to be a student who's concerned with the fact that probably with the online lecture, maybe they are not really having the presence of lecturers there. So whether management
let me attempt to respond to this.
Okay.
Prof, can
all
I?
Right, so, all right, go on.
Thanks for the opportunity. I think that it's a very relevant question because worldwide, the failure of online education is the lack of policy and the lack of respect of the system, both by lecturers and also by students. Before I come to the question, let me emphasize that for a starter, there have been challenges from all sides. And those challenges is that, yes, the lecturer is new to the system, so there is a bit of resistance, and then later they learn and then they accommodate and they want to do it well. Similarly, you have a student who can access the system but who also resist it to some extent. Learning something new is always difficult. It's as if you start learning swimming. It takes some time to adapt to the water. So this can explain why there have been some few divergences from the onset. But I can assure you that ATU organized several, training and invited very professionals to train people on how to develop content. We started with Professor Bafwa, and after him, we invited quite a number of people to help us develop content. And we also put in policies to ensure that, yes, each lecturer upload content appropriately, put assignment, and get on to use the online education system. Some were recording videos, others were recording audios at the beginning. All did not adapt directly to Zoom, direct teaching at the beginning, I must admit. But in some few time, this became actually the order of the day. And as we started a new year and we are running the shift A and B, we have lecturers teaching online. We have our quality assurance that goes at the back to check. And we were even checking the record of lectures to ensure that actually lectures took place. Notwithstanding, there can be some few hitches in there, and we are still working to make sure that people follow the plan and the policy strictly, both lecturers and then students. I think to some extent, this is what I wanted to add.
Thank you, Prof. Professor Felix.
Yeah, I think I made mention of it during my presentation that it's something that came with challenge, but with dedicated IC team, at least the training that we've done series of training, and the online teaching. I also mentioned that the quality assurance was at the background, monitoring what is actually happening. So I think Prof re-emphasized on that, and I think by and large we will be working on it, and also it's not only from the lecturer's perspective, it's also from the student perspective. Sometimes the lecturer goes online, and then the students also are not available. So all those things are things that we're working on, and then I think by and large, would in the nick of time, things will improve. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. The next question is from Bismarck Watting. Thanks for the great opportunity to participate in this knowledge-based presentation. My question goes to the last presenter, that is Professor Akakovi. Please, are there opportunities for the humanities to explore the grants? That is from Bismarck, UBIT Library in Wa.
Yes, thank for the opportunity to answer this question. I think the answer is yes, and I want to just share this slide to emphasize on the answer. Any activity that fall under the scope of these three categories is actually acceptable. So even in humanities, if you find innovations in curriculum co-development between a host and then a scholar, it is eligible for the project, or new approaches and methods to graduate mentoring and training for humanities, as far as you can make a case, is very, very acceptable, and even research. So it's not only for engineering. For now, engineering, because I am an engineer and Professor Baffa too is an engineer. We have done that. But if you write in humanities, you also you are eligible, highly eligible. And if you write well, you can win as well. All the best.
Okay. Thank you, Prof. Please, any further question or questions?
Prof, Doc.
Yes, Doc.
I have a question for Professor Bafo. He mentioned that when he came first, he sat in a seminar for a final year students who were defending their project work. And it was basically something like sociology project, even though they are engineering students. Please, what suggestion, if there is, I want to know if there is any suggestion that you can make.
Okay, I feel good. Yeah, Florence, without going into details, let me give you a good, this semester, I just supervised 3 capstone project. And these are 3 students in the project. So I had 9 students doing different projects. These are all civil engineering students. One group developed a master plan, a bicycle master plan for the University of Georgia. University of Georgia is a very, very big campus. Actually, it's the first land-grant university in the entire United States. It's a pretty large school. And the second project was an expansion of a roadway network in a particular city. And the third one was also a redesign of an entire intersection. So these are projects that, the student will really do it, and they will see exactly how they can really incorporate what they learned. Remember, final year projects, the purpose of a final year project is for the student to, in essence, put together all the little courses that they have taken from first year to final year and see if they make sense, because it's a project. So if you're in civil engineering, then maybe you may do a highway design. So if there's a highway design, there may be some foundation design, geotechnical work, soil analysis. You may need to do right-way analysis, traffic, so if I've taken several courses, then the bottom line is at the end of the semester, this is what we did. And then now we understand why this equation was developed in class. We now understand why we were tested in this area. So that is the plan. Now, and the issue is not only with ATU. I think it cuts across almost every part of this country where, remember I was here for about 7 years as a vice president of a university, and you see master's thesis, and every master's thesis you see, whether it doesn't matter what area, is a case study of. All right. And so the solution is simple. Well, maybe I shouldn't say simple, because I understand the situation in Ghana also. But what we want to do, especially our students who are in the technical fields, more so with the technical universities, is for the student to find something as simple as it may be and let them do it. If they cannot come up with a prototype, that is okay, but at least the design should be done. Because remember, even if they are doing a Bachelor of B.Tech in, say, mechanical engineering, they will go through some design courses. They're going to have to do maybe CAD. They go through all kinds of design computational. So at the end of the semester, if they want to design a boat, a single boat, a nut, that will change something. Maybe they can design a brand new key that can replace the kind of key that we have. That may be a simple project. The beauty of that is at the end, this student may end up going to the marketplace and develop that, and that becomes a business. I tell my students all the time that, look, when you finish, I want you to go out there and set yourself up. You can work for 5 years and then you begin to create your own. Even in the United States, where there are so many opportunities for the student, we still encourage them to go and innovate and build their own businesses. And I tell them, when they become successful, all I want is a Tesla. This semester I had, I was part of our graduation team in the convocation, and it was beautiful to have so many of the student pass me and say, hey, Doc, we're going to buy the Tesla. Now we're finished. You're going to buy the Tesla. So we need to get them to do projects. And that is why I'm here. So I'm going to be working with Professor Mevi and some of you to think through the process, look at the problems in Ghana and see how can we innovate, how can we get our students to develop projects. Because I know the government is not interested, and that is part of my discussion as well. Because if the government is fully interested, they will put money down for these young kids to develop and innovate and probably package them and put them in the marketplace, because the students are good. I mean, granted, the students can do quality stuff, except that most of the things they do is on a piece of paper, they throw it away. But as teachers, as lecturers, let us not let them do non-engineering projects if they're engineering students graduating. We need to make sure, even if it is a project that we know for sure is not going to go to the market, at least the student will end up graduating with something that makes sense. That is what I would say.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof.
Thank you.
So there's welcome, Doc. There's another question from Ms. McBarton again, and this one is to Prof. Bafo. The question is, please, looking at the municipality of our culture, multiplicity of our culture, how do we translate or convert a document into one acceptable language for a common use, considering the funding source?
Okay, that's a beautiful question. And if you look at the end of my presentation, I said we need to create our own. But before we create our own, look, nothing prevents us from translating. Let me give you a good example. And I'm going to share with you, I have a MOOC out there now called Sankofa Learn. Sankofa Learn, and Sankofa Learn came out of the project that I did with ATU 2 years ago, because I think I want the people in the diaspora to come here and support the faculty here, develop ideas, work with the students so we can really bring the knowledge. For me as a professor in the US, I think not that I don't like being in the US, but I think I should be able to support Ghana, Africa more than I'll support United States, because US is pretty much built. The resources are already there. And so if you look at Sankofa, what I've done right now is I actually spent some time myself, and I have a few staff here in Ghana who are working with me. And that's one of the opportunity I want to bring to some of the colleagues and students on this platform. what I went online, look at short videos. For instance, if you're in IT or computer science, you may see, very, very simple, a 7-minute, 10-minute video from YouTube that talks about IP version 3, IP version 4. It talks about, how to do simple networking. And I'm always looking for something that the student can see that has some simulation that can provide some kind of hands-on. For now, remember, this is in English. So when it comes to translation, we don't have to worry so much about the English. But if the person teaching it is a Chinese and the English is not strong, then what we may do is this. Even though the culture, remember, we cannot translate, everything to Chi, Ewe, Dagoma, and at least not for now. But, if we can get to that level, that would be great. But remember, an average Ghanaian probably understands some basic English. So we can start with some English. And, when you go to the carpentry, the masons, we can incorporate Chi, Ewe, Ga in it in a way. But for now, all we can do is take the existing literature out there. That is free. Remember, most of these are free. And just package it in a way that we think will work in our context here in Ghana. For instance, Professor Mevi or Professor Sabri can take this and say, look, I want you to use this, but I may use it and even create my own video along the same line of this guy. But I'll use these examples. Instead of Johnson, I'll use Kofi. Instead of Adam, I'll use Mary, whatever it is. So the culture, we can only go beyond the culture when we create our own from the scratch, which is tough. But that is what I think we should do as a nation, to create our own from the scratch and stop depending so much on the rest of the world. But before we create our own from the scratch, we need to start from somewhere. And that somewhere is this. Several years ago, I talked to some of the leadership in this country and said, look, let's build a car for Ghana and stop the importation of all used cars. So for instance, is there any reason why mechanical, electrical engineering students at Accra Technical University cannot build a 1.0 liter engine? Is that something that, why not? We should be able to build a simple 1.0 liter engine and maybe put solar panels on the roof so the car can work all day long. Is there a reason why we cannot? But we need to get the support, the financial support, so the students and the faculty can sustain their livelihood for maybe a year or two before they come up with something like that. That is what Korea did. Look, I've been to Korea 2-3 times, and and you weep when you go to Korea. I've been to Japan 2 times. That is all what they did. Japan didn't start building, they went to the United States. Korea went to the United States. China went to the United States. And MIT has been doing all kinds of things to support developing countries. We need to find a way to build our own. Look, go buy a Korean car and put Ghana flag on it as a start. That is a good one. I'm not saying, don't go and quote me and say, I'm asking you guys to go and plagiarize. That is not what I'm saying. But let's go buy a Ghana made car, paint it the colors of Ghana, like we paint our Tesla Ghana, and gradually begin to look at the engine, take it apart, begin to use our own little parts, maybe using bamboo you can use bamboo for the skin. I think if you think it is strong enough, we can look. So let's find a way to innovate. And the young boys, young girls that we have in this country are strong enough, but they don't have any work to do. So let's use them. Thanks.
Thank you, Prof. I think some questions have been dropping in the chat. This Mark Watson again, he wants a brief definition of MOOCs because he was a bit late. If you could just summarize for him.
Oh, MOOCs is a massive open online course. So when we say a MOOC, M-O-O-C, the M is massive. Massive means is big. It's big, and at times people define the bigness as because it's on the internet. But when they say the big, it means you can have one course that 50,000 students can take it. Remember, the M is massive, the C is course. So a big course, and then it is open, so it is to the rest of the world. That means generally it's free. Most of them are free. You can do this, without paying anything. I remember many years ago, I told my faculty at GTUC that, look, and this is going to happen, maybe, in 10 years down the line, you can take a whole 4-year engineering course for $4,000 as compared to paying maybe $200,000 in the US. Because, if MIT professor is teaching a MOOC on Coursera, which is for free, And when you take the course, guess how much you pay? $50 if you want a certificate. If you don't want a certificate, it's free. I've taken a few courses. I just took a course on, this is from the University of Hong Kong on Coursera. It has to do with IS audit. I just took it, when I finished pass, I haven't gotten a certificate yet. I'm still deciding whether I want a certificate or not. It's free of charge. You don't have to pay anything. So you can get professors across the globe. And these are professors in different parts of the world, very strong universities. You can get me to teach you for free. That's how it works. So that is what MOOC is.
Okay. All right. And then this is to Prof. Amavi from Richard Barnes. Please, may I inquire the mode of assessment of the scholarship spoken about? I think it's referring to the Carnegie Fellowship, maybe the mode of assessment.
Okay. So, I would take this question from here. Professor maybe actually asked me to take it. The presentation you made is exactly on the money. You write your proposal, and they link you with a scholar. You can also work for a scholar on that. So I think it's also good. They also encourage you to find a scholar who potentially you can work with. And then you recommend, you can say that, look, I went through your database. Because right now, all the scholars, we are in the database, So even if you haven't visited any country yet, you can apply as a scholar, they put you in the database. And then you say, these are my areas. And so once you write the proposal, then what they will do is they go look through the process and make sure that, number one, they can find a match. Just like being in the hospital looking for a match for a transplant. So they find a match and say, well, you want somebody to help you develop this curriculum, and the curriculum is in electrical engineering. So we are looking for maybe an electrical engineering professor who has a curriculum design, curriculum development background. And then we got John Manson, who is at University of Oklahoma. He is also wants to be a scholar, and then we match the two. That is, and now once they go through that, and then you follow the normal proposal writing process, because you have to write a proposal, and show all the things and talk. But you don't have, the good thing about this is you don't have to worry about the budget, because the budget is them. They deal with the budget, but the tricky part is the host institution should also say that, look, when I come here, we are going to be responsible for the fellow when he or she is here. And interestingly, there are quite a few of us gradually coming. I know some of my colleagues are actually going to come back here. And I know some are going to Kumasi. I know a colleague who just came yesterday going to Cape Coast, things like that. So that is, it's a very good thing. So like Professor maybe said, if you have any idea, and I may not come, but this may be my last trip, and that is excellent. So, I will be able to, if you have any idea that, you can also communicate with me. I'll try to find somebody maybe who can work with you as a fellow and then move it forward.
Okay, so thank you very much, Prof. There's another question from Richard Barnes concerning whether MOOCs emphasizes on theory. So whether you are advocating for MOOCs to be theoretical, and if there's a practicality, how does that come into it? Or is a blend of the two, both theory and practical?
Well, and I see Richard, and I want you to make this a little correction. The O's are two, it's open and online. So it's MOOC. Maybe it's a typo. I just want to make sure you get that as well. I took, maybe about 8 years ago, I took a course on Coursera, and this was on astronomy. The professor was from Duke University in the UK, and he had 2 teaching assistants. And to demonstrate the movement of the planet, this professor actually went to his basement, used his lighting system, a flashlight, turned the lights off, had the darkness. And so, you can use any approach you want to show the practical aspect. MOOC is not, look, MOOC is for everything. You can teach whatever you want as a MOOC. You can teach photography, you can teach basket weaving, you can teach how to do grass cutter, you can do whatever you want. So the challenge, remember, so the MOOCs, doesn't prevent you from doing hands-on. What prevents you from doing hands-on is the fact that it is online. And that's the challenge that we have in online education. I think the dean's talk, he talked about the fact that the blended allowed them to do some hands-on. That is one of the challenges we have when it comes to online education. So the MOOCs doesn't prevent you from doing hands-on. What will prevent you from doing the hands-on may be the fact that it is online. And that is what I think we have to take a step back and say, how are we going to do hands-on? So there are so many approaches. One of them to get some kind of simulation. I remember many years ago when I was here at JTUC, we had an agreement with MIT, and we could do some hands-on using the equipments back in the US. Just this semester, my school, the iLab, yes, just this semester, a few group, we develop, I teach surveying, engineering surveying. So we have developed a gadget, and my plan is I'll bring it to ATU so you guys can play with it. We've developed a whole equipment that the student can go online, and it's a desktop. Right now, we actually make a desktop application so that you can go download the application, and the student can go in there and use the equipment and play with it, level it, and make take shots, calculate distances and do that. So and I think this is all. Look, my issue is, let's put our students in a room, lock them up, give them all the food, the money they need. Trust me, when you open the door, they will have the solutions. They will have the solution that will fix this country. And so the hands-on is well needed. If for any reason you can't do the hands-on, then you do the blended. You find a way to bring them back face-to-face and get it the hands-on, so that at least 50% of the class is done remotely and 50% is done hands-on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. In fact, our time for the webinar is over. We had 2 hours. So since Prof is around, if you have any further questions, you can see him and then clarify your questions. But we have to close because of time. I have to give the closing remarks for this, closing and final remarks for this webinar. And then from there, as I said, if you have any further questions, you can ask Prof or the speakers that presented.
Yeah, they can visit in the office of the Pro Vice Chancellor.
Yes, please. You can visit in the office of the Pro Vice Chancellor as well. Right. So I'm deeply honored to present the closing remarks for this educative and wonderful webinar series on online education, which was facilitated by ATU and AAU. That is ATU's library, AAU, Carnegie African Diasporan Fellowship, and the Faculty of Engineering in ATU. The webinar has enlightened us on online education, MOOCs, teaching and learning the COVID-19 era, lessons learned from ATU, as well as Carnegie grants and fellowships. Furthermore, this seminar has performed a valuable function in that it has enabled experts on the many different areas of engineering to give us their views regarding online education. Globally, the rapid and tremendous growth of ICT has paved the way for migration of traditional face-to-face mode of education to other educational modes which employ or utilize technology as part of teaching and learning processes. Some of these technology modes of education include mobile learning and electronic learning, which most of you know. Online education has been recognized as a solution to population growth of students, which is normally not consistent with the academic resources available in our institutions. Additionally, online education solves a lot of challenges relating to the current COVID-19 global pandemic by reducing social contact. Because when COVID-19 came, the issue was about contact. Once there's a lot of contact, then the disease spreads. So the only way to stop that is to create a form of education which will not allow a lot of contact. And that is what was done globally and everywhere, even in ATU. So it is therefore vital that ATU facilitates measures which will motivate teachers to teach using emerging technologies which are consistent with Web 2.0 and also utilize appropriate theoretical frameworks such as the technology acceptance model during implementation of online education. The technology should be able to be accepted. So those who are going to conduct online education in terms of the teachers, in terms of the students, they should be able to accept technology. If that acceptance is not established, it becomes difficult for online education to be implemented. And those are some of the challenges that we've had through the presentations. So practical training involving how to use the ATU LMS that has been developed by our ICT directorate, how to even log in, how to submit a course, how to download, upload, how students will use their site as a stakeholder, and then how lecturers will also use their site also as stakeholders. All of these things are very, very important because the system can be there, but if there hasn't been that sort of acceptance and then knowing what to do with the system, it becomes basically useless. So that aspect is very, very important. When it comes to Zoom, when it comes to Google Meet and Microsoft Teams and all of these sort of technological equipment that we now use in teaching and in various businesses, it is very, very important. When you go on Zoom, how do you share a screen? How do you create your PowerPoint slides to be able to lecture in Zoom? How do you log on as a student? How do you log on as a lecturer? All of these things are very, very important. You see, traditionally, what happens is because we go into a classroom, the facilities are in the classroom. So you go into the classroom and you go and teach. But if it's online education, it means whatever is being done in the classroom has to be transmitted now through technology. So the technology aspect is where you use the online facilities to be able to deliver a particular lecture. And that is why it is important that ATU looks at this. So ATU is fortunate to have come into contact with Professor Iwabafo. He has spoken a lot today, given very good presentations and answered almost all our questions. And he's still here to answer further questions. It is important that we foster more innovative online education methods. And then we also, although we have the ATU LMS, which is very, very good, we can look at other methods and develop the MOOCs that he mentioned. And once we have these MOOCs in place, I believe online education can go further. So in closing, I would also like to thank the presenters. We had 3 good presentations today. One from Professor Bafo, one from Professor Felix Kuchenoji, our Dean of Engineering, and another from Professor Amevi Akakobi, our Pro Vice Chancellor. They have given good presentations, and I believe we have all been able to benefit from it. So thank you very much for attending this presentation and making yourselves available. I'm sure the presentation will be recorded, or this whole session will be recorded, and AAU will have it. So they'll provide it for those who are not able to attend. Thank you very much.